X-Men stars Hugh Jackman, Patrick Stewart, Ian McKellen, FAMKE JANSSEN, James Marsden, Halle Berry, Anna Paquin and Rebecca ROMIJN-STAMOS. The movie is written by Tom DeSanto, BRYAN SINGER and David Hayter, based on the X-Men comic characters created by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. Cinematography is by Newton Thomas Sigel and music is by Michael Kamen. X-Men is directed by BRYAN SINGER, the man responsible for The Usual Suspects, Bohemian Rhapsody, and the other X-Men movies, X-Men 2, X-Men Days of Future Past and X-Men Apocalypse. What's the story? Patrick Stewart narrates over the opening titles. He talks about how mutation has been the key to our evolution. The movie opens at the Auschwitz camp in Poland in 1944, as a line of unfortunate Jews are being herded towards the gas chambers. A young boy called Eric Lenscher, aka Magneto, played by Brett Morris, is separated from his family. The distress this causes Magneto stirs a dormant mutation to surface. Magneto twists and deforms the metal gate separating Magneto from his parents. This magnetic force is so strong it takes half a dozen SS soldiers to restrain Magneto. Ultimately, Magneto is knocked out by the butt of a rifle, and he is, therefore, unable to save his parents. Note, this is a powerful and moving scene that is exceptionally well directed. Now we are in Meriden, Mississippi in the not too distant future. Marie, aka Rogue, played by Anna Paquin, is in her bedroom talking to her boyfriend. Rogue has maps of the country on her wall, and it seems that Rogue wants to go on a grand tour before she starts college. When Rogue kisses her boyfriend, she inadvertently sucks his life energy and he starts to fit. Rogue is distraught. On Capitol Hill, a public meeting takes place. Jean Grey, played by Famke Janssen, explains to the attendees that the next stage of human evolution has started. Young boys and girls are starting to discover mutant abilities when they reach puberty. Senator Kelly, played by Bruce Davidson, interrupts Jean and takes the floor. He suggests that mutants might be dangerous and he proposes the Mutant Registration Act. Only this way can the humans know who the mutants are and what they can do. Senator Kelly's speech is met with applause and cheers from the crowd. Magneto, now played by Ian McKellen, has been watching the debate and he leaves in disgust. On his way out, Magneto is stopped by an old friend and fellow mutant stuck in a motorised wheelchair. This is Professor Charles Xavier, played by Patrick Stewart. Magneto is frustrated because he believes that mutants will be persecuted in the same way Jews were persecuted by the Nazis. Xavier is more hopeful. He suggests that the human race has evolved since then. To this, Magneto replies, "Yes, into us." Xavier uses his mind control powers to have a quick look inside Magneto's head. When Xavier tells Magneto that all he is looking for is a bit of hope, Magneto replies, "I will bring you hope, old friend, and ask only one thing in return. Don't get in my way." Rogue is given a lift to a truck stop in Alberta, Canada. We figure that Rogue has run away from home following the earlier drama with her boyfriend. There is more to this truck stop than meets the eye because the bar has a fight club inside. A fight goes on inside the cage in the middle of the building, but it doesn't last long. Another contender is wiped out by the reigning champion, the Wolverine, aka Logan, played by Hugh Jackman. A new contender steps into the cage, played by Darren Maguire. He gets in a few good blows before Wolverine goes on the offensive. With each punch there is a metallic clanking sound. A few seconds later the contender is knocked out. Later on the bar is virtually deserted. Rogue drinks a glass of water and looks awkwardly at a jar full of tip money, meaning that she must be short of money. A TV over the bar explains there is soon to be a United Nations summit at Ellis Island in New York. Here the leaders will discuss various topics, including the mutant phenomenon. Wolverine is sat at the bar when the last contender he beat comes to complain that it was not a fair fight. The contender suggests that Wolverine is a freak, in other words a mutant. When the contender pulls a knife, Wolverine turns around and pins the contender against the wall. Out of Wolverine's knuckles come 3 razor-sharp metal claws. The barman puts a shotgun in Wolverine's ear, but this is no problem either because Wolverine flicks his other wrist and 3 more claws slash through the shotgun like butter. Wolverine leaves the bar, having outstayed his welcome. He drives off in his camper van and trailer. Some miles down the road, Wolverine stops and finds Rogue in the back of the trailer. After some initial doubt, Wolverine eventually gives Rogue a lift. Rogue tries to start a conversation. She notices that Wolverine has military dog tags that actually say Wolverine. Rogue has some empathy for Wolverine because she is a mutant too. She asks if it hurts when Wolverine's claws come out. "Every time," is Wolverine's reply. Suddenly a tree falls across the road. The camper van crashes and Wolverine is thrown through the windshield and down the snowy road. Rogue's legs get trapped and she can't get out. This is not good news because a fire has started in the back of the camper van and there is a gas canister nearby. When Wolverine gets to his feet, Rogue notices that the scar on Wolverine's forehead heals instantly, another of Wolverine's mutant powers. Another mutant called Sabretooth, played by Tyler Mane, jumps on Wolverine and throws him around like a ragdoll. Wolverine is then knocked out by a tree branch, but before Sabretooth can finish Wolverine off, a blizzard comes out of nowhere. This is because two of the X-Men have arrived. Aurora Monroe, aka Storm, played by Halle Berry, has the ability to control the weather. Standing beside Storm is Scott Summers, aka Cyclops, played by James Marsden. Cyclops scares Sabretooth away by firing his laser beam eyes at him. Next, the X-Men pull Rogue out of the campervan and drag Wolverine away before the campervan explodes. Sabretooth works for Magneto. It appears that Sabretooth was supposed to bring Wolverine back with him, but all he managed to bring was his dog tags. Sometime later, Wolverine lies unconscious on an operating table in a high-tech laboratory. Jean is standing over Wolverine. She uses her telekinetic ability to bring items to her so she can take some of Wolverine's blood. But Wolverine wakes up and he's scared of what is happening. He chokes Jean for a moment, but then he leaves and escapes down a high-tech hallway. Wolverine hears voices all around him and he thinks he's being followed. Wolverine goes up in an elevator and finds himself in what appears to be an expensive prep school because a bunch of kids strolls by. Wolverine barges into an office to hide, but Xavier is in the office giving a lecture to a group of students of mixed ages. One of these students is Bobby Drake, aka Iceman, played by Shawn Ashmore. Xavier dismisses the students. The last student to leave is Kitty Pryde, aka Shadowcat, played by Suma Lakay. The fact that the door is now closed is no problem for her, because she leaves the office by walking through the wall like a ghost. Wolverine can't believe his eyes. When Jean, Storm and Cyclops enter the office, Xavier tells Wolverine that he is in Xavier's school for the gifted, in other words mutants. He goes on to tell Wolverine that he was attacked by Sabretooth, who works for the powerful mutant Magneto. Wolverine has heard enough and he tries to leave. When Cyclops stands in his way, it looks like a fight is brewing. However, Xavier uses his powers to get inside Wolverine's head. It seems that Wolverine woke up 15 years ago with no memory of his previous life. Xavier offers to help Wolverine to try to find the answers, if he agrees to stay. A montage follows as we get a guided tour of Xavier's school. We see the X-Men teach students in various subjects, and we see glimpses of some of the powers the students have. We also learn that under the school is a secret bunker with high-tech stuff, including a stealth jet. Rogue has enrolled at Xavier's school also. In one lesson, Iceman introduces himself to Rogue, and he gives her a present of an ice sculpture that he creates out of thin air. His mutant power is to control ice. He tells her, "Welcome to Mutant High." Senator Kelly takes off in a helicopter, but his pilot has been replaced by a mutant called Toad, played by Ray Park, who works for Magneto. When Senator Kelly realises he has been taken for a ride, Senator Kelly's aide, Henry Gyrich, played by Matthew Sharp, transforms into a female mutant called Mystique, played by Rebecca Romijn-Stamos. Mystique is a stunningly beautiful woman with red hair, blue skin and scales covering her private parts. Mystique has orders to kidnap Senator Kelly. She knocks him unconscious right after telling him, "People like you are the reason I was afraid to go to school as a child." Back at Xavier's school, Jean sends Wolverine for an X-ray. We later learn that Wolverine's skeleton is made from an indestructible metal alloy called adamantium. This suggests that Wolverine has been experimented on by humans. That night, Magneto introduces himself to Senator Kelly. Magneto explains that Mystique has been posing as Senator Kelly's aide for some time. We also get the impression that Mystique and Magneto are lovers, despite the obvious age gap. Magneto explains that he leads the Brotherhood of Mutants. Magneto gives Senator Kelly a glimpse of his master plan by using him as a test subject. Magneto uses his powers to operate a rotating machine that generates a wave of glowing radiation. The radiation washes over Senator Kelly, but we don't yet know what this will do to him. Jean shows Wolverine to his room in Xavier's school. Wolverine tries to flirt with Jean, but she explains that her and Cyclops are an item. Jean demonstrates her telekinetic power by closing a closet, and she then uses her telepathic powers to look inside Wolverine's mind. She gets a vision of Wolverine being experimented on, which is obviously how Wolverine got injected with adamantium. During the night, Wolverine experiences the same vision/nightmare. From down the hall, Rogue can hear Wolverine moaning, and she gets up to see if he's okay. Unfortunately, Wolverine wakes up in a rage, and his claws come out and impale Rogue. Wolverine comes to his senses and calls for help. However, Rogue is able to help herself. She touches Wolverine and sucks his life energy, including his ability to heal. Rogue's wounds are healed, but Wolverine is knocked unconscious. By the time this happens, there is a crowd of onlookers watching, and they are fearful of Rogue's power. Senator Kelly stares out at the ocean from his prison cell on Magneto's island. Senator Kelly is shocked to discover that his body has been turned into elastic and he can slip through the prison bars. By the time Magneto and Sabretooth check up on him, Senator Kelly is trying to climb down the rock face outside his prison cell. Magneto asks Senator Kelly, "Who will take you in now that you are one of us?" Sabretooth tries to grab Senator Kelly, but he is too elastic and he slips into the ocean below. The following morning, Senator Kelly swims to shore and emerges on a crowded beach. Everyone stares at his weird mutant body with disgust. This is Magneto's plan in action. Magneto intends to change all the world's leaders into mutants so that his cause becomes their cause. It's actually a very clever plan. Back at Xavier's school, Bobby meets with Rogue. Unfortunately, Bobby is not sympathetic to Rogue's situation, and he tells her that she should leave the school because of all the trouble she has caused. While this seems out of character for Bobby, it all makes sense when we see that it is Mystique that is impersonating Bobby. We can tell this because of a flash of yellow in Bobby's eyes. When no one can find Rogue at the school, Xavier decides to use Cerebro to find her. Cerebro is a machine set into a huge spherical room in the secret bunker under the school. Cerebro amplifies Xavier's powers to such an extent he can contact any or every mind on the planet. When Wolverine asks why Xavier doesn't use Cerebro to find Magneto, Xavier explains that Magneto has found some way of shielding his mind from him. Xavier operates Cerebro. The empty room is filled with images of all kinds of people. Humans are white shapes and mutants are red shapes. Ultimately, Xavier locates Rogue at the train station. Wolverine steals Cyclops' supercharged motorcycle to get to the station before Storm and Cyclops. He finds Rogue sitting on a train. After a short conversation, he convinces Rogue that no one is angry with her and she should give the school one more shot. Meanwhile, Mystique is still up to trouble in Xavier's mansion. Posing as Iceman, she finds her way down into the secret bunker and passes Xavier's retinal scanner, without explaining how Mystique is able to replicate Xavier's eye. Mystique gains access to Cerebro and she sabotages the machine. Storm and Cyclops look for Rogue in the train station, but Magneto's henchmen are there. Storm is grabbed by Sabretooth. "Scream for me," he asks her. At the same time, Toad climbs up a wall. He lashes out his tongue and whips off Cyclops' glasses. Cyclops blasts a hole in the roof and rubble comes crashing down. As the night sky is now revealed, Storm uses her powers to attract a bolt of lightning to strike Sabretooth. Everyone in the train station panics and heads for the exit. Before Wolverine and Rogue can get off the train is magically ripped open and Magneto flies in. Wolverine asks Magneto what he wants with him. In reply, Magneto tells Wolverine that he never wanted him, he wants Rogue. Magneto easily dispatches Wolverine into the back of the train with his powers, and he sedates Rogue with a syringe. By the time Magneto, Sabretooth and Toad exit the train station with Rogue, there are 24 police cars outside. Using his powers, Magneto lifts 2 police cars into the air and smashes them into other cars. Magneto then pulls every gun the police have and turns them back around to point at the police. Visually, this is quite spectacular. Magneto utters the immortal line, "You Homo sapiens and your guns." Strangely, Sabretooth and Toad question Magneto. This is because Xavier has arrived, and he is using his powers to influence Magneto's men. Of course, Xavier cannot get inside Magneto's mind because of the special helmet he wears. When Sabretooth grabs Magneto by the throat, it leads to a dramatic standoff. Magneto fires one of the guns at a policeman's head. Using his powers, Magneto manages to stop the bullet from penetrating the policeman's forehead, but the bullet spins around and creates a groove, which makes the policeman cry in pain. Obviously, the policeman is too stupid to pull his head back or move out of the way of the spinning bullet. When Magneto cocks and aims all the guns, it looks like there is going to be a massacre. Xavier has no choice but to release his control of Magneto's men. Magneto and the others escape in Senator Kelly's helicopter, piloted by Mystique. Speaking of Senator Kelly, he turns up at Xavier's mansion. Ironically, it is the only place Senator Kelly can go now that he is a mutant. Xavier reads Senator Kelly's mind to find out what Magneto did to him, so the X-Men now know about the radiation machine. It is clear now that Magneto wants to transfer his powers to Rogue so she can operate the machine, which is likely to kill her. Shortly after being medically examined, Senator Kelly disintegrates into water and dies. The medical examination reveals that the radiation Senator Kelly was exposed to triggered a mutation, but his body rejected it and it killed him. Anxious to find Rogue, Xavier uses Cerebro, but Cerebro has been sabotaged and Xavier collapses in a coma. After fixing Cerebro, Jean uses Cerebro, which is dangerous for her because it is only really suitable for Xavier to use. Jean discovers that Magneto and the radiation machine are headed for the Statue of Liberty. The X-Men are worried that it is not just the world's leaders that are threatened by Magneto's radiation machine. The radiation wave is likely to wipe out all of New York City as well. Millions of lives are at stake. The X-Men get inside the X-Jet. When Wolverine makes a comment about his new black leather costume, Cyclops remarks, "What would you prefer, yellow spandex?" This is an amusing nod to the fact that Wolverine wears a yellow spandex costume in the comic books, but this would probably look stupid in a live action movie. The X-Jet lands near the Statue of Liberty and the X-Men go inside the gift shop. There is a funny moment when Wolverine passes through a metal detector and sets it off because he is made of metal. Wolverine has heightened hearing and smelling senses and he knows there is someone else in the gift shop with them. Mystique turns into Wolverine and they fight each other, which is very confusing. Luckily, Mystique eventually turns back into her normal blue form so we can determine who is who. Toad is also there and he attacks the other X-Men. Jean freezes Toad in midair with her powers, but she drops him when Toad spits something nasty in her face that stops her breathing. Cyclops uses his laser eyes to cut the substance off, which sounds like a crazy thing to do, but it works. Toad next attacks Storm and he karate kicks her down an elevator shaft. Storm recovers quickly and she flies back out of the shaft. Storm then uses lightning to electrocute Toad after saying the line, "Do you know what happens to a toad when it's struck by lightning? The same thing that happens to everything else." This line makes no sense whatsoever because it was apparently supposed to be the payoff to a series of "Do you know what happens to a toad when?" quips made by Toad throughout the movie that never made the final cut. So now you know. Storm finds Wolverine, but Wolverine turns around and stabs her with the claws. This is because Wolverine knows this is not Storm, but Mystique, probably because of his special sense of smell. Mystique returns to her normal state and she is out of the fight for the rest of the movie. The X-Men get to the top of Liberty's head. They can see that the torch she carries has been swapped for Magneto's machine. But Magneto is there and he wraps up the X-Men in a matter of seconds. Magneto also removes Cyclops' visor, so he is forced to keep his eyes shut because he is facing Jean. There is a funny line by Magneto in response to Storm's threat to blast Magneto with electricity. Magneto says, "A bolt of lightning into a huge copper conductor? I thought you lived at a school." Magneto leaves the X-Men under the watch of Sabretooth while he transfers his powers to Rogue and starts the radiation machine. Wolverine manages to set himself free and he gets into a fight with Sabretooth on the top of the Statue of Liberty's head. Wolverine stabs Sabretooth repeatedly. How he does not die is a mystery, unless he has the same regenerative powers as Wolverine. Wolverine takes Cyclops' visor back from Sabretooth and Jean uses her power to fit it back onto Cyclops. Cyclops frees everyone and blasts Sabretooth off the Statue of Liberty and he eventually crashes into a boat in the harbour. As Cyclops cannot blast the radiation machine without killing Rogue, Storm and Jean elevate Wolverine up to the machine so that he can disable it, but Magneto has some strength left in him. He was weakened when he gave his powers to Rogue, and Magneto holds Wolverine back. Cyclops blasts Magneto, which frees Wolverine to destroy the machine and save Rogue, and everyone else in the path of the looming radiation wave that was on the way to Ellis Island. Unfortunately, it appears that Rogue did not survive. Wolverine tries to bring her back by touching her, but nothing happens. However, after some moments of holding her, Rogue comes to life as she sucks the life force from Wolverine. The police arrive in the gift shop. They find an injured security guard and take him away, but this is Mystique in disguise. Sometime later, Xavier wakes up from his coma. He meets with Wolverine and tells him that he might find some answers to his past at a military complex found at Alkali Lake. Before he goes out the door, Wolverine gives his dog tags to Rogue for safekeeping until he returns. Outside, Wolverine steals Cyclops' motorcycle again. As the X-Men watch TV inside the school, they hear Senator Kelly talk about how he was wrong about mutants. Clearly this is not Senator Kelly because we know he died. This is Mystique. The final scene is played out in Magneto's high-security plastic prison. Magneto plays chess with Xavier. Magneto proposes that the humans will eventually pass a law on mutants and come for his children in the middle of the night. Xavier replies, "I feel a great swell of pity for the poor soul that comes to that school looking for trouble." And with that, Xavier leaves. He has won the game of chess and that round against Magneto. Issues. What happened to the metallic clanking sound that we heard when Wolverine was fighting in the cage? We never heard this sound again when Wolverine was fighting anyone else. Also, neither Sabretooth or Mystique reacted as if they were punching a metal man, like the contender in the cage did. The news on TV exposition device got a little repetitive. When you stick a TV on a chair in the middle of a beach, it shows that you're getting desperate, and you should really try to find another way to present information to the audience. There might be some confusion as to the relationship between Wolverine and Sabretooth. In the comics there is a storyline that tries to establish Sabretooth as being Wolverine's father, but this is allegedly disproved by blood samples. Another comic storyline suggests that Wolverine and Sabretooth are part of a canine derivative species called lupines. However, This theory was later debunked as being a lie. A third comic storyline refers to Wolverine as having a brother called Dog, and it has been assumed by many people that Dog was also Sabretooth, although writer Paul Jenkins has commented that these characters were never intended to be the same person. In the initial X-Men movie under review here, Wolverine and Sabretooth are unconnected adversaries, yet this is contradicted in the later spin-off movie called X-Men Origins, Wolverine. In that movie, it is suggested that Wolverine and Sabretooth have the same father. There is a definite inconsistency in Wolverine's regenerative abilities. We witness Wolverine recover instantly from a fatal-looking head wound, yet he remains unconscious for hours when he is knocked out by Sabretooth. This is highly unlikely. Xavier tells Wolverine that he met Magneto when he was 17 years old. This is contradicted when Xavier and Magneto meet for the first time during the movie X-Men First Class, when Xavier is in his early 30s. In the original X-Men movie, Jean Grey explains that Wolverine's skeleton is made up from an indestructible metal alloy called adamantium. This is consistent with the comics. However, in X-Men Origins Wolverine, it is suggested that adamantium is not an alloy but an element found only in meteorites that fall to Earth. Xavier explains that it was Magneto that helped build Cerebro. However, in the X-Men First Class movie, it was Hank McCoy, aka Beast, played by Nicholas Hoult, that built the first Cerebro at the CIA research facility. When Wolverine asks Xavier to find Magneto using Cerebro, Xavier explains that Magneto has found some way of shielding his mind from him. The way this is said suggests that Xavier never had this problem before. However, in the X-Men First Class movie, Magneto's helmet was first used by Sebastian Shaw, played by Kevin Bacon, back in 1963. Magneto took Shaw's helmet when he killed him. Mystique is stunningly beautiful, sexy and evil. She is a wonderful character to watch. As this is the first X-Men movie, there are no contradictions in Mystique's character, nor are there any contradictions in the second or third X-Men movies. However, by the time we get to the later reboot movie called X-Men First Class, we are then told that Mystique is actually called Raven Darkholme, and she has been living with Xavier since she was a little girl. She is Xavier's oldest friend. If this was actually true, Xavier would refer to her as Raven, not Mystique, and he would be doing everything in his power to bring her back to the school. In addition to this, Mystique would never sabotage Cerebro and run the risk of killing Xavier. If Xavier was smarter about it, the first thing he should have got Sabretooth to do outside the train station would have been removing Magneto's helmet. Instead, he talks to Magneto, and this gives Magneto the opportunity to use his powers. Why can't Jean free herself from the metal Magneto wraps around her? She must be strong enough to do that. She must also be strong enough to lift Wolverine up to the Statue of Liberty's torch. She already suspended Toad in midair, so why is it up to Storm to do it? It is quite irritating that Jean Grey appears to be so weak in this movie, when she is in fact the most powerful mutant that ever lived. The finale is underwhelming, not because of the action or the stakes, but because of the scale. The train station sequence has lots of police and is relatively large scale. The finale by default should be larger scale than this scene. Unfortunately, what we get is a group of mutants fighting it out in a gift shop and inside the Statue of Liberty's head. This restricted space feels small scale by comparison. Review. X-Men is a wonderful superhero movie. Director Bryan Singer does an amazing job, and there are some outstanding scenes, especially the opening scene. The chemistry between Xavier and Magneto is fantastic, and their dialogue is exceptionally well written. The music is great, and the cinematography is conceptually brilliant. I particularly love the way the first meeting between Xavier and Magneto is framed. It's right out of a comic book. The quality of this first movie reinvigorated the superhero genre and launched a very successful X-Men franchise, not to mention all those Wolverine spin-off movies. My rating, 93%. Hi, this is Mike Kendall, and thanks for watching my video. I'd like to know what you thought of this movie. Was it a hit? Was it a flop? Let me know your thoughts and rating in the comments section. You can also tell me what other movies you'd like to see reviews for. Please like and subscribe, and remember to hit that notification bell for all my new videos. Sharing these videos on Facebook and Twitter would help me out a lot. I'd sure appreciate it. Don't forget to check out the other videos on my channel. We're adding more all the time. I'm off to see a movie. You have a great day, and I'll see you in the next video.